cycling. Yeah.
Great, Tibo. Dod draw mwy at y canol, yeah? Come over to the middle a bit for us. Fan yn dod.
Allan y môr, mae rosys clochion. Allan y môr, mae lilies gwanion. Allan y môr, mae nghariad uned yn cysgu'r nos a chodi'r bore. Allan y môr, mae carreg wastad, heb yn siarad gair am cariad, o ddeithi hwn beth y fylili, ac am bedfrig yn o'r osmari. Allan y môr, mae cerrig gleision. Allan y môr, mae blodau'r beimion. Allan y môr, mae cofi'n weather. Allan y môr, mae nghariad uned. Allan y môr, mae rosys clochion. Allan y môr, mae lilies gwanion. Allan y môr, mae nghariad uned yn cysgu'r nos a chodi'r bore.
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch.
Pas ni pan mae bywyd yn rhan i neu hanner. Holio mi bai os mae'n rhaid so fi'n fyny. Ond cofiwch yn ionedd yw does neb wir o'n boni. Ac oedd i ti mewn môr o anwybodau. Ride the way, nes gyrraedd Penygroes i ti. Mewn môr o anwybodau. Ride the way, nes gyrraedd Penygroes.
Full powers over policing, our legal system, our broadcasting, our taxes. We want our lands returned to us from the British military and other state bodies. We want full control over our water, our natural resources, and for the first time in our long and honourable history as a nation, a national constitution of Wales to protect and guarantee the freedoms of our citizens. Once we are treated equally with Scotland, any further steps on our constitutional journey will be a matter for the people of Wales to vote in a referendum. The fundamental distinction between devolution and Home Rule is the recognition by the UK government and Parliament that they have no jurisdiction to decide on the powers or fate of our democratically elected assembly. Awyddochi, did you know that Westminster has the power to abolish our National Assembly? With Home Rule, we have the guarantee that our democracy is here to stay. And always know this, we are not a principality, we are a nation. Nations stand and fight for their freedom. Felly, I gloi, dyn ni'n galw ar bobl Cymru I ddeffro ac I ddychmygu ein gwlad ar ein newydd wedd. Mae gweledigaeth hirdymor yn allweddol I unrhyw gymdeithas iach. Ymunwch yn ni ar y daith hon. Lledwch y neges a gorwch llygaid eich cyd ddinasyddion. Trafodwch y syniadau a ddysgwch. Heriwch yr awdurdodau. Gweithredwch. Peidiwch a bod ofn. A word of warning though, be aware of those who will undermine our democratic ambitions for the sake of their consolidated power. Be aware of those who will deploy underhanded methods, lies and cheating techniques in order to preserve their privileged way of life. They are morally bankrupt and have dishonoured themselves. Be aware of those who will ridicule and fight us because in the end, us and us alone, the people of Wales, are the guardians of our own destiny. Rhaid I ni warchod ein treftadaeth, amddiffyn ein hunain, a brwydro dros gynhawl democrataidd I lywodraethu ein hunain fel cenedl, modern, ymysg, holl genhedloedd y byd. We call on our citizens from all backgrounds to join us and create a forward-looking Wales, a nation where we can truly be free to choose our own national future. For Wales, dros Gymru. Iawn, y siaradwyr. Y siaradwr cyntaf hoffwn ni estyn gwahoddiad iddo yw David Peterson, sydd wedi bod yn weithgar tu hwnt dros y blynyddoedd, dros achosion Cymreig, ac hefyd sydd yn adnabyddus fel arlunydd. The first speaker that we have today is David Peterson. He's a very, very well-known artist and a true Welsh patriot. And he's going to say a few words, so he's going to kick us off. So, gallwch chi roi diolch os gwelwch yn dda. Gallwch chi ymestyn croeso os gwelwch yn dda I Dave Peterson. Dave, take it away.
Diolch yn fawr. Croeso I bawb. I want to read you the most extraordinary thing that was written by a Daniel Corkery in Hidden Island in 1924. The first article of an ascendancy's creed is, and always has been, that the natives are of a lesser breed, and that anything that is theirs, except their land and their gold, is therefore of little value. In the course of time, the natives become tainted with these doctrines and cry approval when the untruths of the ascendancy are echoed from distant places like London. As if at last a fair judgment has been pronounced. Ring a bell? When the Scots were given their parliament in 1997, the Scots said, "About bloody time, Jock." A year later, when we were given our assembly, we said, "Oh, thank you very much." That's got to stop. We've got to say, "About bloody time." We've got to start demanding what we need and what we want. One of the most wonderful moments of my life was when the SNP won the referendum in Scotland. Because they did win it, make no mistake. They've got two wonderful fish in Scotland, the salmon and the sturgeon. I'm sure there are a lot of other fish, and I'm sure we've got fish. We're going to hear one or two of them later on from this podium. But even watching through the eyes of the London media, the atmosphere in Scotland and elsewhere, it was electric. Democracy won. Scotland won. And yes, the SNP won. And we're going to see the results in a few weeks' time when the general election results are announced. For the first time in many, many decades, we're going to see true democracy. And we're going to have Scotland maybe showing us in Wales how it's done. Are we a lesser nation than Scotland? I don't think so. I don't think so. But they have shown us how we're doing it. It wasn't so long when Plaid Cymru was much stronger than SNP. Look at the situation now. We can do it. All we want is a will. Now, I just want to mention a few things. A nation is judged by its national institutions. Yes, thank goodness we have a national library. Yes, we have a national museum. But the charter that was granted in 1907 said, "It is intended that the new museum shall be primarily and essentially national in character." Now that's the charter. Nothing should be admitted which does not illustrate or elucidate Wales in some aspect or other. It is a significant instrument of colonialism if you get that wrong. It undermines the self-confidence of a nation if you get it wrong. Nothing should be admitted that doesn't illustrate or elucidate Wales. You go and have a look at some of the stuff there now. We've got a national library and we've got a national museum. We haven't got a national gallery. We haven't got a room in the museum for Welsh art. We haven't even got a bloody wall for Welsh art, let alone a bit of a room. Now, that isn't an accident, because if you have a national gallery, not only do people aspire to be in it and to represent our image, it is part of our cultural identity. And without it, we have to put up with Welsh second best. Well, I've been putting up with Welsh second best for years, professionally. I'm not going to put up with it anymore. We need a national gallery now. Richard Burton and his wife Elizabeth Taylor put a lot of money to build the foundations for a National Theatre of Wales. We don't have one. We got a National Theatre Company, unfortunately, has to go all over the place at different venues performing. We need a national theatre. We haven't got one. I tell you what, while we're into what we want a national opera house. We want somewhere where we can commission and sing Welsh opera. There's nothing against Italian opera, I love it. But come on, it's taking £18 million of our money every year for 15 days to perform opera that's got nothing to do with us. People say, oh, well, there's no such thing as Welsh opera. Well, it's about bloody time there was, and anyway, that's not true, because there's been plenty of operas written in Wales and about Welsh and in the Welsh language. So let's get that sorted out. A national dance company we could do with, well, we've got it in name, but the guy who runs it says there's no such thing as Welsh dance. How crazy is that? That is madness. We've got a national Eisteddfod, thank goodness, but you'd be hard pushed to hear any Welsh music from there. Try it, go on the mice and see if you can hear Welsh music being played. The only place you'll find on the Eisteddfod field is in the dance pavilion where they're accompanying the dancers. Yes, we have our language. Thank God we have our language. But we don't have any official financial support. In other words, the Arts Council in Wales, not of Wales, the Arts Council in Wales won't give any support for Welsh culture. I've got this theory that when Nick Crickhowell did a deal and Maggie Thatcher said, go on, because dear Gwynfor was believed and trusted, you can have your language, but you can't have your culture. Think about it. Think about it. We've been going downhill since that time. We've had every other bugger's culture, nothing wrong with that. But what about our own culture? That's what we should be shouting and demanding for. Just an idea, and this really upsets me. We've got the most fantastic national costume that goes back centuries. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our cultural identity, our costume. Fewer and fewer people are wearing it. The only places where they're encouraged is in primary school. Just imagine in a secondary school, if the secondary school kids wore it. Just imagine if adults wore it on special occasions. You just want to get around, go around Europe, go around the world and see how proud they are of their costume. Even if you can't speak Welsh, you can be Welsh in a visual way. And what hurt me terribly was that an organiser of the National Eisteddfod was pleading with the teenagers of Wales to get rid of this old-fashioned nonsense image of tall hats and what have you, and let's wear rugby shirts. Well, let me tell him something. You have a look at the Welsh rugby shirt. It's got the badge of a Bavarian prince's gift to his son of 3 ostrich feathers. You know that indigenous bird that flies around Wales, the ostrich? We got 3 bloody feathers of it, and not only that, we've got a magnificent, the oldest language in Europe, and we've got to use a Bavarian bloody title, I serve. Ich dien. Come on, Wales, for goodness sake. Okay, let's have a daffodil. But the other thing that really upset me, a couple of years ago, we sent our 15 boys onto the field, symbolically representing Wales, and what did they have embroidered on their bloody neck? A white dragon. Now, for those of you who know about symbolism, if you're going to use symbolism, you've got to bloody know about it. A white dragon represents England, and we sent our boys play in England with their symbol on our shirt. Listen, we are not lesser. We are as great, and if not greater, than any other nation in Europe. It's about time we stood up and said so. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Jamie Bevan o Ferthyr sydd yn gandeirydd ar Cymdeithas yr Iaith Gymraeg. Jamie is the chairman of the Welsh Language Society. I'd like to call him to the podium, and Jamie's address will be yn Gymraeg, in Welsh, and I'll give a short synopsis of what he said afterwards. Felly, can you please give a warm welcome to Jamie Bevan.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, diolch o galon am gwahoddiad I ddod I siarad fan hyn heddiw ar ran Cymdeithas yr Iaith Gymraeg. Diolch hefyd I trefnwyr am roi lle teilwng i'r iaith Gymraeg, nid yn unig yn y rali yma, ond yn ein holl ymgeisiadau I cael Cymru wirioneddol rydd. Diolch yn fawr iawn I nhw am roi lle teilwng i'r iaith Gymraeg. I am going to speak mainly in Welsh today. I believe that the Welsh language has a central role in any effort to gain a truly free and independent Wales. It is inseparable from any new modern Wales that we want. Do not see the Welsh language as a barrier. I know many of us here, including many of my own family, we have been cheated of the language. We have had it stolen from us. Do not see the Welsh language as a barrier. See it as an opportunity. It is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to regenerate our economy. The Welsh language can keep Welsh jobs in Wales. It's an opportunity. Dwi'n cytuno gyda Saunders Lewis. Dwi'n cytuno gyda Saunders Lewis pan mae'n dweud nid Cymru fydd Cymru heb y iaith Gymraeg. Whether you're Welsh speaking or not, make the language, give it its rightful place in the campaign for an independent Wales. Fel siaradwr Cymraeg, dwi wedi blino. Dwi wedi blino ar derbyn y brwsion. Dwi wedi blino ar y rhythma o datganoli. Dwi wedi blino ar frwydro dros y fanion, ar dadle. Ydyn ni'n digon eiddfed I cael mwy o bwerau? Ydyn ni'n digon eiddfed I cael pwerau trethu? Ydyn ni'n digon eiddfed fel cenedl I cael pwerau dros ein cyfryngau? Adl ni datganoli cyfryngau I Gymru? Dwi wedi blino ar y flynyddoedd yn mynd heibio, y flynyddoedd o'r proses yma. Pobl yn dweud, byddwch am yn Edgar, bydd y proses yma yn arwain at ryddid. Dwi'n dechrau colli ymynedd, dwi'n dechrau blino, ond dwi hefyd wedi fy ngrymuso. Dwi'n dathlu Dwi'n dathlu o weld y mudiad newydd yma sydd o flaen fi heddiw. Y mudiad sydd wedi cael ei ysbrydoli gan digwyddiadau diweddar yn yr Alban ac yn Catalonia. Mudiad sydd gyda digon o hunan hyder i dweud, dyn ni yn aeddfed, dyn ni yn barod. Mudiad sydd yn sylweddoli, sydd yn gweld, does dim byd llai, does dim llai o hyder, does dim llai o aeddfedrwydd gyda ni y Cymru, nag unrhyw bod dynol arall ar y ddeiar yma. Dim llai o aeddfedrwydd na'r Albanwyr, neu'r Cataloniaid, neu hyd yn oed pobl Lloegr. Mae Carwyn Jones yn ddiweddar, mewn araith yn Llundain wedi dweud, mae'n amser stopio siarad am ddatganoli, a mae'n amser ffocysu ar yr undeb. Dwi'n cytuno gyda Carwyn Jones, mae'n amser stopio siarad am ddatganoli. Mae'n amser nawr canolbwyntio ar ryddid annibyniaeth i Gymru. Tra bod unrhyw rym, unrhyw pwerau yn parhau dros ni fel gwlad yn Llundain, tra bod unrhyw pwerau yn parhau i fod yn Llundain, ni fydd wir reolaeth gyda ni. Ni fydd y pwerau, y man pwerau na sydd gyda ni fan hyn, yn cael ei weithredu gyda pobl Cymru mewn golwg. Mae Carwyn Jones a'i blaid yn weithredu y pwerau hynny sydd gyda nhw, gyda un llygad ar Llundain, un llygad ar eu meistri nhw yn Llundain. Bydden nhw dim ond yn gweithredu y pwerau yna o fewn beth mae Llundain yn caniatáu. Parity with Scotland. Yes, parity with Scotland. But I'm not here today to call for more powers. I'm here today to call for all the powers. I don't want to argue over tax raising powers. I want all the powers. Has devolution given us an education system which sees all of our young people come out of the education system confident, fluent Welsh speakers? Has devolution given us that? No. And there are a lot of you here today who can vouch for that. Devolution is failing our young people. While any powers remain in London, we will not have a system which sees everyone in Wales coming out of the education system being confident with the choice to speak English or Welsh. Unless you can speak Welsh, unless you can speak English and Welsh, you haven't got the choice. That choice has been taken away from you. And it's only through an education system that sees everyone receiving their education in Welsh that we can address that problem, that situation. Ydy'r rithma tu ôl I fi wedi rhoi ni system cynllunio, trefn cynllunio sydd yn rhoi buddiannau cymunedau a buddiannau pobl Cymru cyn elw a cyn busnes fawr. Na, dwi ddim. Ar hyn o bryd, mae Carwyn Jones yn mynd I roi ni system cynllunio sydd yn efelychu system Lloegr, sydd yn rhoi buddiannau busnes mawr o flan busnesau chi a fi. Dwi'n cytuno gyda Carwyn Jones, mae'n amser ffocysu. Ond dwi ddim yn amser ffocysu ar undeb Prydeinllyd. Mae'n amser ffocysu ar wir annibyniaeth. Mae'n amser ffocysu ar system o llywodraeth sydd yn rhoi pobl Cymru yn gyntaf. Mae'n amser ffocysu ar system sydd yn rhoi pobl cyn elw a cyn ryfel. Mae'n amser ffocysu ar system sydd yn rhoi y iaith Gymraeg yn ei iawn lle fel priodiaeth ein cenedl ni. System sydd yn dweud ein bod ni'n ddigon aeddfed. system sydd yn dweud bod digon o hunan barch gyda ni, y Cymru, i reoli ni, ein hunain, a neb arall. Does dim hawl gyda neb ar y ddaear yma dweud i fi a dweud i chi be dylwn ni wneud fan hyn yng Nghymru. Cymru rydd. Diolch yn fawr, diolch.
Diolch o galon ti, Jamie. Thank you very much, Jamie. I don't need a chance. Right then, nesaf mae gen ni Dewi Pws, lle bynnag wyt ti, Dewi. Dewi Pws, I don't need to introduce this man. He's going to tell a joke. A relevant one, I hope.
Clean one.
Shwmai. Dwi ddim yn un am siarad yn dda, do'n i ddim yn ger off. Saboteurs in the business, man. Nah. Dwi ddim yn un am siarad. I'm not one to talk. I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to say I agree with everybody else and what. We yn timlo. We yn timlo. Wrth glywed Dave a Jamie'n siarad fan hyn, mae pethau gyda fi weid. Un peth, one thing, wy'n siarad yn y ddwyieithog, achos wi eisiau pobl i ryndo sydd ddim yn siarad Cymraeg hefyd, dyn ni nhw mewn. I'm going to speak bilingually. Bonjour, comment ça va? C'est bien? Un peth yn ddiweddar, one thing lately, do you know, it grips my bloody nerves, yw bod ni'n galw, that we call our country Wales. Casau hwnna, it means foreigners, we're big foreigners in our own country. Can we start an ymgyrch, beth yw ymgyrch? Beth?
Campaign.
A beth?
Campaign.
Oh, an empire. No, campaign. Can we start? Allwn ni ddechrau, i alw Cymru. I am a Cymro. Does dim eisiau. I am a... Maen nhw'n gwlad yw hon, nid principality fel maen nhw'n gweud. Chi'n bod, mae iaith gyda ni, mae traddodiadau. Lawr yn Aberteifi, nawr, gweud yn ddwy iaith. Down in Aberteifi, now there's the celebrations, 800 years of the castle. They've had £12 million to invest in this. And the first band they invited was Bellowhead, an English, bloody great band, but self-professed purveyors of English music to the best that they could do. Why? Where's our musician? It's an insult to us, and that's one of my pokes anyway. But can you email Cadugan Trust and tell them? Ask them if they want it in Welsh or English. Mae eisiau stick o land os yn hunain, dros yn iaith ni. Mae visitors come down to Tresaith, and there's so many holiday homes in Tresaith now, owned by our neighbours from across the border. They call it Tresaith. Why are our neighbours so... I wrote this last week. Why are our neighbours so noisy and loud? Why does just one of them sound like a crowd? Why do they push and jump in the queue? Why do they always know better than you? If they love England, as they often professed, why don't they stay there and give us a rest? Dwi'n sôn am y politicians o fydda yma. Mae'r iaith yn bwysig. Dwi'n licio chwerthin, you've got to laugh, but dychan yn bwysig. Satire is very important, as Dafydd ap Gwilym, Dafydd Iwan, and many other poets and orators have said. It is important, but we are laughing, I hope, at them as well as us. Yr iaith, I was speaking Welsh, Cymraeg. See, it's a habit you bloody get into. I was speaking Cymraeg, ni siarad Cymraeg yn y ship yn Tresaith. And dath y boi yma, this man came up to me and said, what, English man? You think, oh, I love the English. Be in bed with a couple. And he said, mae fi'n gweud, why do you all speak Welsh? A cynnwch ar own mentality. A wedes I, well, it's just to annoy the visitors. And his answer was, yes, of course, yes. They just don't believe we've got a culture and it's our country. So another un peth arall fan hyn, home rule for Wales, pathetic. Mae hwnna yn pathetic. What we want is home rule for England. Then the buggers will leave us alone. Thank you. Diolch you. Right, dwi ddim yn mynd I siarad, wedes I bod fi ddim yn siarad. Am yr iaith, for the language. I think I'm turning English. As I walked into this shop, everyone started speaking Welsh. So I told them all to stop. The same thing happened in Paris as I sat upon a bench. Everyone passing, including the children, started speaking French. Bloody ignorant. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Hello? Oh, yes. Yes, Your Majesty. Yes, thank you. If I shut up, I'll get a knighthood. Yes, Your Majesty. Right, sorry, duty calls.
My nawdir. She's been campaigning for Welsh causes for many, many years. And I'd like to for all of you to give her a warm welcome as she says her piece for us. Louis to Catrin.
Helo bawb, mae mor hyfryd I weld gwynebau chi gyd. It's so fantastic to see you all here today. Bore yma, oedd bob un o'n I wedi bita brecwast, byddwn ni'n tybio. Wrth y bwrdd, ar y soffa falle, gwrando ar y radio, siarad gyda'n gŵr neu'n partner neu'r ci. Ar Ebrill y 4 mewn canrif, nid ni fydd yma'n bwyta brecwast. Bydd na bobl eraill yma. Ond bydd ein straeon ni yn aros. I don't know what you've had for breakfast this morning, Weetabix, a bagel or a kiss. But on April the 4th, in 100 years' time, most of us will not be here eating breakfast. We will be the people of Wales that were. But stories will be told about us. What will those stories be? Because we will have some, oh yeah, we will. But what will be our legacy? Ni fydd yn cael ein cofio fel y bobl a gollodd y cyfle I sicrhau ymreolaeth I Gymru. Ni fydd y genedlaeth nath ganiatáu i'r fformiwla Barnett barhau I ariannu Cymru yn anheg a cholli'r cyfle I fyny ein bod ni'n cael ein trin yn gydradd a chenedloedd eraill yr ynysodd yma gan fodloni ar frwsion y St David Days Agreement. Will we be the generation that missed out on a golden opportunity to demand home rule for Wales, responsibility for our natural resources, a legal jurisdiction for Wales, powers over taxation and welfare, broadcasting, policing and our courts? We are the most able people in the world to deal with Wales because we are Wales. I often think we're not angry enough in Wales, on behalf of our people, on behalf of ourselves. To think that so many of Wales's people live in poverty despite us being so rich in natural resources. Mae pobl Cymru drwy hanes ac hyd heddi wedi exploitio a'i coloneiddio. Mae hawl gyda ni I fod yn gynddeiriog am hyn ac I fyny gwell. So despite this anger and a YouGov poll last year showing that 63% of people want the same powers as Scotland, how come the outgoing Westminster government failed to deliver a fair constitutional package yet again? Why do they think that we deserve less and shouldn't be treated equally to the other nations of these islands? I'll tell you why. They presume that we are in a deep slumber. They sincerely hope Wales doesn't shake off the malaise. In fact, they desperately want us to remain quietly colonised and dependent. And then, of course, there's use of language. The nation, by which, of course, they mean the UK. How many times do we hear that in the media? Colonising us every day. Our nation is Wales, neu Cymru. Dangosodd bobl yr Alban I ni beth sy'n digwydd pan mae pobl am weld grym a chyfrifoldeb yn dychwelyd i'w gwlad. Doedd hi'n ddim llai na chwildro democrataidd. Scotland's strong national movement and clear political vision has created a period in our history as nations when people power and a strong, inclusive, determined national movement shook these islands to their core and demanded that things be done differently. And as a result, things will never be the same. People change things. People like you and me. And their strength of vision is still reverberating. But we must remind the establishment that Cymru is reverberating too. We must be the agitators. We must encourage people to be confident enough to ask questions, to realise that things can be so very different to the reality that exists. And we can begin to raise expectations with our conversations today. Because when enough people are determined and imagine something so strongly, the establishment must listen. And everyone must be included in this conversation, not just our geeky political friends, but the girls and guys in the local sewing club, the old men in the cricket team. Let's begin to discuss the concept of Welsh citizenship, where everyone who has chosen to make Wales their home understands that they deserve access to our history, our language, and our natural resources. Let's think big and shrug off the clothes of colonisation. Let's see clearly for the sake of our parents, our daughters, our nephews, and our neighbours, and ourselves. Show poverty and poverty of aspiration the door. Felly beth am ddechrau un sgwrs newydd am ymreolaeth heddi yn y bai, gydag un person newydd. Why not have a new conversation about home rule today, in the bay? The moment you leave now to have a coffee, or perhaps head back to your community. One conversation, explaining that Wales is in danger yet again of getting left behind, and that we can change that. Let's treble the crowd next time we meet through our conversations. Let's grow into a popular, vibrant, inclusive national movement that sets the agenda and has extremely high expectations for Cymru. We want to live for Cymru and the things that we want to and deserve to control. I wonder, what stories will we have created in 100 years' time?
Iawn, hoffwn i gyflwyno'r siaradwr ola nawr. This is our last speaker for the day. Once again, someone else who doesn't need an introduction, but I will. Darpar ymgeisydd i'r cynulliad, Prospective Assembly candidate, Adam Price.
Mae mor braf i fod yma ac i weld yr haul yn torri trwy'r cymylau pan oedd y siaradwyr eraill yn siarad. Os codwn ni'r to, falle bydd e'n goleo'r siambr. Does bosib bod angen tym bach o leini fyna. O'n i'n poeni, bach o anwyd yna, o'n i'n poeni fydden ni'n gallu siarad edrych. Ond o'n i'n meddwl, wel, falle byddai'n colli'r llais erbyn y diwedd. O'n i'n meddwl, wel, falle dyw yna ddim yn ddrwg i gyd. Achos mae'n dipyn o symbol nag yw o'r predicament i ni ynddi fel cenedl. Nawr ac yn hanes ni. I ni wedi bod yn genedl ddilais ac oherwydd hynny di-rym a diobaith. Mis diwetha, oedden ni'n cofnodi 30 mlynedd ers streic y glwyr. Oedd e'n gyfnod pwysig iawn yn mywyd i, oherwydd pryd hynny des i mewn i weithgarwch gwleidyddol. Oherwydd o'n i'n deall y foment hynny bod angen i ni frwydro i osgoi bod yn y sefyllfa lle oedden ni yn oddefol, yn gorfod derbyn penderfyniadau gan bobl mewn dinas estron oedd ddim yn becso dim na dam amdano ni. Ac gweitha'r ffaith bod mae'r adeilad hardd yma tu ôl i ni, mae'n symbol hardd o'n dyhead ni i fod yn genedl a grym yn dwylo yn hunain, yn democratiaeth go iawn. Ond eto, i ni dal mewn gwirionedd yn yr un sefyllfa heddiw gweitha penderfyniadau sydd wedi bod yn y referenda ers hynny. Dyna pam mae mor bwysig gyda dy gwir, a mae'r llais yn dechrau cael ei golli nawr bod ni yn sefyll lan gyda un llais a mynnu dyfodol i ni yn hunain. I was wondering whether I might lose my voice before the speech is over, and it's beginning to happen, but that's not a terrible tragedy because that's a symbol of the predicament we are in as a nation. Our voice is ignored. It's not listened to. That's why we're neglected down in Westminster, in this sham of a democracy that we have at the moment. You know, seeing Dewi earlier reminded me of Grand Slam. So, you know, I can say, to quote the 1970s, I know because I was there. I walked those corridors of power in Westminster and the streets of Whitehall and the media studios of Millbank. And I can tell you that we are held with low contempt as a country in Westminster. And until we actually demand a different attitude ourselves, then we will never be a priority for them down there. We've seen it graphically over the last 6 months, haven't we? The Scottish nation stood up to the British establishment. They demanded a future for themselves. And some of us were there with them, standing shoulder to shoulder. And what happened? The British establishment rewarded them for their self-confidence. They already, Scottish Parliament, of course, the most powerful of all the devolved legislatures, the one that is funded the best of all the Celtic nations because of their self-confidence, they're given more power, more tax-raising power, more borrowing power, power over the Crown Estate, power over welfare spending. Look what happened in Northern Ireland. The political parties there threatened to plunge the devolution settlement in Northern Ireland into chaos. And what happened? They were rewarded by the British political establishment. They were given £2 billion a year, every year extra on top of what they already have. And they were given the power to reduce corporation tax so they could attract badly needed jobs into Northern Ireland. What happens in Wales? Wales, the quietest, the most well-behaved, the most obedient of all the members of this family of nations. And what do we get? We get power over sewage. Power over sewage, but not, mind you, power over our own water. We get power to license the taxis that pull up outside Cardiff Central Station, but not the trains inside or in any other station in Wales. We get power over energy projects under 350 megawatts, but not those that are 351 or above, presumably because our tiny little Welsh minds couldn't deal with the complexity of it. We get the power to borrow, but only if we spend it on an M4 relief road that everyone in Wales believes we don't need and can't afford, apart from one cabinet minister and the CBI. In sort of hushed tones and kind of, slightly hinting as if we're meant to be grateful, we're told that we may one day get power over the Severn Bridge tolls so we don't have to pay for the privilege of returning to our own country. We get the right to call this assembly a parliament, though let's be honest, to all intents and purposes, it'll be a parliament in name only. It is a senedd of our own aspiration, an affirmation of our hope, and we should respect that. But it's time to turn hope into reality. The decisions, most of the decisions that affect most of the people of Wales most markedly are not made here. They're made, in a train ride 2 hours away from here. But oh, hang on, no, there's good news there as well. Apparently they're going to cut the train journey time by 15 minutes down to 1 hour and 45 to the imperial capital from Cardiff by 2019. Hang on, though. It was 1 hour and 45 minutes in 1977. That's the speed of progress in Wales, my friends. 42 years to achieve bugger all. Don't you think we deserve better? Don't you think that we could achieve better if we're given the tools to do the job ourselves? Over there is the coal exchange. You know, 100 years ago, the first £1 million cheque was signed in the world. This port here was the piston of the engine of the world economy that was Wales. But what did we get for the blood and sweat of our forefathers? What did my grandfather get, who died underground? What did your grandfathers get, that toiled like slaves in the pits, in the steelworks, in the slate quarries, in the tenant farms? What did they get for their sacrifice? We got a few miles of civic pride up there in Cathays Park, and we got a couple of fairy tale castles along the A470. That's what we got because we didn't control our own destiny. What should have been a rich inheritance became for us a bitter legacy, and it's with us still here today. Quarter of a mile in that direction. Walk the streets, do me a favour. When you go home today, walk the streets of Butetown over there, right? Named after one of the worst of our robber barons. It's one of the poorest communities anywhere in Europe that you'll find within spitting distance of a parliament. People there in Butetown die on average 12 years earlier than people just 9 miles to the north in Rhadir. The children of Butetown, by the time they're 16, they're 50% behind the children of Lisbon. That's the legacy we've been given. Go 2 miles east to Tremorva, you know, a part of Wales that was once lit up by a future that was being forged in steel. Children there today are being diagnosed with rickets in 2015. In 2015, you know, why? People ask me why, when I make political speeches, I always refer to our history. Well, I tell you why, because the past is stalking the streets of our capital today in broken lives and in wasted futures. And you know, if that isn't enough to make anyone angry, then nothing will. If that doesn't make you determined, then you've succumbed to the same despair that is a scar upon our land. If that doesn't spark you into action, then there is no hope. But hope there is, because we're here. Because we're here together. You know, for too long as a nation, we've learned to be poor. We've learned that there is no alternative, that we're too stupid, too small, too insignificant for anything better. Well, what's learned can be unlearned. We can refuse to be passive victims. We can decide to take control of our own future. We will be a priority. Wales will be a priority when we decide we are our own priority. And think of just some of the things we could do if we had control. If we wanted to control our economic future. If we could regulate our own telecommunications in Wales, we could break the monopoly of British Telecom and give this country the kind of ultra-fast broadband they've got in Estonia, South Korea, and Kansas City, Missouri. We could actually create national insurance exemptions in areas of high unemployment so we could create the jobs to give hope for our young people. That's just 2 ideas from one mind in 2 seconds. Think what 3 million minds could achieve if we were given the power to control our own future. The first step is to believe in the power of our own collective intelligence as a nation. Look at the contempt that we are held with. Look at the attitudes that we've seen over the last couple of days to Leanne Wood, a single voice for Wales there in the leaders' debates. You know, the Westminster media, the London media, they managed to be sexist, racist, and classist all at the same time. That's the kind of attitude. Look, obviously the voice is back. Look what they've done. Look what they tried to do today to Nicola Sturgeon. Smeared her with a lie and a false leak from the heart of the British government. But why? Because they're frightened, aren't they? they know that Westminster is going to have to learn to dance to a Scottish jig. Well, we know a few tunes in Wales too. And, you know, let's turn our single voices into a chorus for change. Let's sing in harmony together, as only the Welsh can. Let's all of us, you know, join a party or a movement that is in favour of independence. Google it won't take very much time, there aren't that many. As Catherine was saying, the next step is the crucial one. Ask a friend to join with you, and ask them to ask their friends. Let's create a human chain to break the chains of poverty in this nation. So next year, we'll turn these hundreds into thousands. We'll turn this Senedd into a parliament in more than just name, for a nation that's begun to believe in itself again, and for a people on the march to a future that will be better than our past.
Diolch yn fawr iawn i ti, Arthur. Right, dyma ni, dyn ni wedi gorffen am y dydd. Hoffwn i ddiolch i chi gyd am fod yma heddi. Dyn ni gyd fan hyn yn Yes Cymru, pob un ohono ni. We are all here today as one. We are all Yes Cymru. This campaign is not exclusive. We all belong to it, each and every one of us. I'd like to thank the organisers, but most importantly, thank you, because you are the change. You are the change that will change this country forever. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi.